Welcome to My Hometown, the program that explores clubs, organizations, businesses, and issues across Nassau and Suffolk counties and sheds light on the different towns that are making a difference.
Hello and welcome to My Hometown. I'm Bill Horan, along with my co-host, Nassau Community College student Corey Kaufman, coming to you live once again via Zoom and being socially distant as recommended.
Today we're going to talk about a unique business. And I know a few people in my life that could use their services, myself included.
Me too. So let's welcome our guest, Michele Goldsmith, who is a professional organizer and the creator of Live, Love, Organize, a company based here in Nassau County. Michele wants to help you organize your life. Michele, welcome to My Hometown on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Michele, first of all, I hope you're doing well in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. Are you surviving okay?
Doing the best we can, but no, we're good. Thank you so much.
There must be some interesting aspects of being an organizer person and business when you can't go into houses and you're perhaps doing everything virtually, as most of us are today.
Yes, it's been challenging, but we've figured out a way to still continue to work and survive and help people.
Meet. All right, that's what we want to hear. Corey?
So tell us, what is Live, Love, Organize all about?
So Live, Love, Organize is a company I started about 5-6 years ago, helping people get their lives organized. I go into their homes, see their needs, what are their challenges, whether it's kitchen, garages, I'm doing a lot of garages these days, basements, kids' toys, just people decluttering and just getting on track.
Michele, that was interesting when you said garages. Do people call you for special, do you specialize in garages and bathrooms and someone else specializes in bedrooms and attics? Is there such a thing?
No, I do everything.
Okay.
It's just interesting. During quarantine, a lot of people have been doing their garages. It's really funny. You know, I definitely have been doing other rooms as I normally do, but during quarantine, a lot of garages.
Now, Michele, what made you want to organize other people's stuff?
It was sort of something that fell in my lap. Somebody said to me one day, actually I had a realtor say to me, have you ever considered, because I was selling my house at the time, and somebody said, have you ever considered going into this? And years ago, no one was like, what is that? That's a thing? And it just sort of gives me, I love seeing how it's a project and I could see it from the beginning to the end. I love taking it apart and trying to figure out how to make this work for somebody and then seeing the end result and seeing them be happy. It's just, I don't know. I know I sound crazy, but it's fulfilling.
I'm just thinking of the opposite. Do you ever do a beautiful job like a painter and say, this is it, this is my greatest work, and you come back the next week and go, oh no, what have you done?
Yeah. Well, sometimes I always say to a client, like, 9 times out of 10, I always say, like, we're going to go in, let's say it's a kitchen. I'm going to organize this kitchen, and then I'm not going to come back tomorrow. I'm going to come back in a week because it's important for you to live it, feel it. If it works, it may not work for you. So whatever doesn't work, we fix it, we tweak it. But it's very important to live in it.
I'm just thinking of like a side story as you're telling us this. Do you get a call like at midnight, I can't find the salt, or where's the coffee?
The time.
You do? Oh, okay.
Oh my God, all the time. And actually my husband makes fun of me because I'll wake up to text messages or like you said, where's my son's this, where's this? And it's the craziest thing. I can't remember yesterday, but I could tell you where that is in your house.
Wow, okay. This sounds like a good sitcom plot, so we have to talk more about this. Corey?
So I know you offer free consultations. What is it you are looking for when you first enter someone's home?
What is their biggest challenge? What is their biggest challenge and what is their goal? Like, what do you want to get out of this? And it's so funny because it always starts with, maybe it starts with like this closet or just this room. And then when they see that, then it snowballs like, wow, this came out great, or I can't believe how this is so functional now. Like, I always want to maximize your space and make it functional. So we go from there.
Now, Michele, I have to ask you, what is the strangest thing you've been asked to organize?
That's a very good question.
We think of the basic thing, I guess, like a playroom, a basement, a garage, as you've said, but there must be something quite unique that you've walked into a house not expecting, and there it is. And
underwear drawers are little challenging sometimes.
Okay.
Some things that you might find. But I have to say, people will say, do you get like grossed out? It doesn't, I don't look at it like that. I just go in and I'm so focused that I've seen everything, to be honest.
I guess you're like the doctor. You're not blaming people. You're not saying you shouldn't have been smoking or you caused the heart disease. Your job is to cure it and do the operation or the procedure, and you do it.
Exactly. Very well said. And I always say to somebody, like, no judgment. I am not judging you. I would never judge. Everyone has their things that they're good at and something that they struggle at. So no judgment.
So are you doing the cleaning, or do you employ people to help you?
So I do it all because I'm going to say I'm a little bit of a control freak. And I just know I have a certain reputation I want to withhold and stand up to. And it's very important for me I just want to give it the best. So I have tried I'll use like an intern I've done, because another part of the business that I do, which is interesting because I'm really doing that a lot now, starting to, all the people getting out of New York, I've been packing and unpacking. So whether they're moving out to the Hamptons for the summer, unpacking them there, or I'll use somebody for that, but other than that, I want it done a certain way.
You're an auteur. You have a vision.
Exactly. Exactly.
Michele, I find this fascinating because this is kind of taking us behind the scenes. It's like, what does the doctor do before and after the operation? Things that we would never really see. So one of the questions that's popping into my mind, let's say I've retained you and asked you to come over and do a job. Do you want me there to oversee, to watch, to say to me, can I throw this out? Or is it, Bill, get out of the house, don't come back till I call you?
Okay, that's a very good question. And I have to say that it really depends on the client. I have to respect that client's wishes, because I have clients that I've had for years since the beginning. I go to them probably once or twice a month, and they'll say, I don't want to be here. You know me now. Get rid of what you think is right. Get rid of the junk, purge. I don't care what you do, and organize it. But then I have other people, especially for the first time I'm there, I always give them the option. If you want to be here, if it's just straight up organizing, most people, maybe they'll linger in the house, but they're not in the room with me. But if it's purging, I sometimes recommend in the beginning to stay with me, because I don't know you well enough to know, is this garbage to you? This piece of paper could maybe have some kind of meaning to it, and I don't want to just throw it away. I throw out everything, but...
I'm thinking of myself now, and I'm probably your worst nightmare. I'm that person when you pick up the mug, and I go, oh, wait a minute, that's from the 1965 World's Fair. I have to have it. And you'd say to me, when was the last time you used it? 1965. And can't we move? No, we've got to have that. Do you get a lot of people like me?
Oh, a ton. And then I'll make a face.
You ever hurt them physically?
Yeah. Well, I have the worst poker face. So I'll be like, really? Like, do you really need this? Come on. And then I'll say, all right, we're going to put this in that pile. Like, it's a maybe pile. And then little by little, we might chip back at that pile and say, all right, we'll let it go. I'm very big on donating things. So if I'm going to donate something, a lot of people feel better with that. I'm not just going to throw it to the curb. I only throw it to the curb if it's really broken or gross or whatever. Mostly I really try and donate. So it makes people feel better too.
I was going to say, there's the feel good part to it, and then you can do it. Okay, that's a good way to do it. Okay.
Yeah.
Corey?
Are you familiar with Marie Kondo on Netflix?
Yes.
That's what this reminds me of.
Yeah.
Can you give us a few examples? What are some of the things that you've had to remove from people's houses?
Oh, God. Clothing is huge. A lot of clothing. I'm going to be honest with you. I've even gone to remove some, you want to talk sentimental? I had somebody that would not get rid of the son's first diaper.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
disgusting.
I know. I know.
Why would you?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't judge.
That's very
I don't
strange.
judge. But
See, I couldn't do this job.
Yeah, I know. My husband says that all the time. He's like, and how crazy you are. I'm like, but I've been very fortunate at the people that I've been with. It's more purging. Clothes is huge. Furniture is huge. Kitchen items are huge. Pantries. I go through pantries crazy, and the food, expired food and stuff like that. But like, it's just normal stuff. That was just a crazy thing. But other than that, it's just your normal things. Like books, we purge books all the time, or I donate them to book fairies or the local library. But furniture, it's just really finding a way to get rid of the old and things that you're not using.
Michele, I'm just thinking, again, every time you answer a question, 5 more come up. And so this makes for a fascinating interview for me anyway, and especially as a not neat person, let's put it that way. Do you get a call, for instance, the wife calls and says, clean up my husband's part of the basement? Or is it the son? Is it the other spouse? Or usually the family? Is there a dynamic we should know about?
So I get a lot of wives. You need to come here and help my husband. I can't go into that basement again. I can't go into that garage again. And I actually had this adorable couple. I'll never forget them. She was like, the garage, I can't even look at the garage. And, some people are so set in their ways. I remember when my parents were moving and my dad, like, downsizing, and I'd be like, Dad, you got to go through this stuff. So this one couple, I could tell right away when I pulled up, he was like, not having it. So I gave him the consult, and then we made an appointment, and he canceled the first appointment. So I was like, oh, he's not ready. And then she called me and she's like, nope, you're coming back here. And we went back there. Well, I was very sensitive to his stuff. Very sensitive. You have to take baby steps. When you have to know the client. You have to feel them out. So it's not right. I don't come in like barreling like, what is this? Get rid of it. We'll just make it work. If you don't want to get rid of it, we're going to make it work. And by the end, he was floored. Like, we kept a lot of his great stuff, his tools, things that meant something to him, and I just made it work. We got shelving, and he was like, I can't believe we did this. And then she came home from work, and she texted me. She's like, I think I really could put my bed in this garage now. So it's hard. Like, I had another client who actually, unfortunately, another big part of the business is if someone's deceased. And how do you get through their clothes or their belongings? And that's another sensitive, very, very sensitive topic, and learning how to deal with that. And so a lot of family members will call me for that and be like, you have to walk them through this. Can you do that? So, yeah, again, very sensitive.
Michele, I know there's people sitting out there listening going, stop asking questions and tell us, how do we get this lady? Where do we get in touch? So if someone right now, before we go further, Live, Love, Organize is the name of the business, but is there a phisical location? Do they call you? Is it an email? How do they get in touch with you?
So I have an email and my cell phone. Email is Live, Love, Organize, NY, like New York.
Okay.
@gmail.
Okay, easy enough to remember.
And my cell phone, 516-971-5917. And then I also have a website, which is liveloveorganizeny.com.
And we'll ask you this again at the end of the show so that if anybody didn't get it down, they can get that pencil out. Now, here's something, again, more questions keep coming up, but we're in a pandemic. How does an organizer work during a pandemic?
I also have Instagram and Facebook. So in the beginning of this, obviously, it was funny because when it first started, I started going on a lot of walks in the neighborhood, and I'm like noticing everyone's garbage. And I'm like, look at that. Everyone is cleaning out. Like, when we realized we're going to be in this for a little bit, every day, especially on the weekends, I was like, look at their garbage. People are cleaning out. So I started to go to social media and really go on my Instagram and Facebook and start giving tips. How about work on this today? Or you ever feel this today? Or it could, junk drawer, whatever it may be, your pantry. There's a perfect time. Everyone's hoarding food. So start your kitchen, your refrigerator. So I started doing that. But another thing a lot of my clients were asking me to do was virtual. So we did a lot of FaceTimes. You know, I have this situation. I had one client that I was in the middle of, she was just having her kitchen redone, and now everything needed to go back. And she didn't know where to begin. And we just sat on the phone for a couple hours, and she would show, I packed her up. So we unpacked at each box, and I told her where each one, everything went.
And Michele, did I read that you donated some things to hospitals?
Yes, Elmhurst Hospital was like the epicenter of this whole crisis, unfortunately. And they built a room to have their workers have a place to go, because unfortunately his staff was passing away, and they needed the workers to stay there, but they wanted the workers to be able to go to have a place to mourn. And so I donated some money to help build that area and make it nice for a very special place for them to go and mourn their fellow colleagues.
On behalf of all those people, thank you so much.
Oh my
Corey?
gosh, of course.
You are listening to My Hometown on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Corey Kaufman, along with Bill Horan, and today we're talking about a unique business based here in Nassau County that wants to help you organize your life, with our guest, Michele Goldsmith, who is a professional organizer and creator of Live, Love, Organize. So I want to know, what is some advice you have for people when it comes to organizing a space, whether it be like a bookshelf or their closet or just any part of their dwelling?
My first and foremost, purge. Purge. And you start off by making your piles. This is what I'm going to keep. This is what I need. This is garbage. This is donations. Start by that. And maybe you're keeping everything. Great. But that's how you start. And then from there, we make those piles, figure out where everything's going, and then we start putting it back in.
Now, I think, Michele, I read someplace that there's a tip you give your clients: set a deadline for children to claim their possessions. Can you tell us about that a little more?
Yes, very important, because, I have so many, I'm going to even just say my husband and my own kids, I'll always say, can we clean up this area? It was especially my husband's closet, You have this pile here. What are you doing with that? So I have to give him a deadline. Like, you have 2 days. In 2 days, if that's not cleaned up, it's out. So a lot of my clients, like I said, I go for a consult, and then I say to them, okay, maybe I'm going to come back in next week on Tuesday. By next week on Tuesday, I would love for you to purge your stuff, or at least start making your piles, so that when I come in, we can go through the piles. So you can make a question pile that you don't know what to do with, and then I can help you go through it. But it's very important to set a deadline, or else you'll procrastinate.
Does this ever backfire?
Yeah, you can.
That's a strange, the way you're just nodding and indicating, yes, I have a feeling there was a massive backfire or something happened.
Yeah, well, you have certain people that are just like, no, I'm just not going to do it. But that's all right, because then I usually just tell people, if you do a deadline, then you save time when you're with me. If you make your own deadline, and then when I come in, we just work. But some people really, really need that hand-holding and they won't do anything unless I'm there, which is fine. I hold them accountable for it. So,
and honestly, I think hand-holding is very important. Quite honestly, if I go to the doctor or if I go to another professional, that's a big part of it. The accountant tells me to do something, they've got to push me a little bit. So you're just doing what every professional really does in their own sphere. So
true.
Corey?
So what kind of advice would you give for someone that, say, is like moving from like a house where they have a lot of space to something like an apartment where the space is more minimal? What are some of your like packing tips that you can give people?
So that's huge, a lot. And then you have a lot of people downsizing. I always tell them, again, you have to remember the space you're going into. You have to keep that in mind. So we're really going to have to downsize. So what is the most important thing? What is so important to you? What do you know? Let's start with furniture. Let's just say you might love everything in your house, but you have to know what's going to fit into that new house. So, measuring that, making sure it's going to fit, and then you have to make choices. What do you absolutely love the most that's going to fit in there, and then donate the rest. But know the space you're going into, and purge before is huge. You have to, same with closets, knowing what are your closet spaces, what is going to fit in there. And I had somebody, it's very, very common, people that have homes and then downsize, like, how am I going to fit all of this in these closets? Well, you're not. So you have to figure out a way to downsize, purge, donate, get rid of it.
Michele, is there anything that we might term a no-touch room? Like, would you go into a house, whether it could be a bathroom, a kitchen, or something else? Is there one you don't want to touch and the people don't want you to touch?
No, unless it's a very personal thing, maybe in their house, a lot, maybe if it's in an office and there are family bills in there or personal stuff like that. But I don't really come across that. A lot of people, I'm open to touch anything. You want me to help you, I'm here to help you. So it doesn't faze me. But a lot of people are, I would say actually, I don't really come across that unless it's just put away and they're just like, don't worry about that drawer, don't worry about that closet. Then I just respect that. But for the most part, no.
Now, I have to ask a question. We always got to create a little scandal and, the Howard Stern type part of the show. Are there any professions, and you don't have to use names of your clients, but would you say to us, firemen are the worst, policemen are the worst, plumbers have the most unkept houses in the world, or teachers? I'm thinking of one, and I just want to throw it in there at the end, but I want to see what you're going to say.
That's very funny. No, I would not. I don't think I would point out a specific profession that is messy.
I deal with a lot of lawyers, or I did, and I can tell you there are some literally where if I went into their office, I would have to take large steps like I was walking through a snow field to
100%.
get to their desk. And they knew where everything was. They had their own system. And if you see them, they look meticulous. They were well-dressed, proper, and excellent lawyers, not sloppy in any other thing. But somehow they liked to have the visual of everything was where they could see it.
I call that organized chaos.
Okay. That's a term in your profession, I'll remember.
Yes,
organized chaos.
A lawyer, especially, the amount of paperwork, and that was actually another big thing in this pandemic, like people's offices in their homes, they're not used to maybe sitting there to work. It's all, so their house bills or whatever, house stuff, and then they had to figure out the house stuff and compared to their work stuff. So I was doing a lot of organizing of desks, home offices during this time, especially in the beginning.
Michele, we promised our audience, and I'm going to get back to Corey in a second, but I would just like you to tell us, if to our audience that's listening, say, who is this lady? How do I get in touch with Live, Love, Organize? Give us the parameters. How do they get to you and can get their life in order?
Okay, so I have a website. You can go on there and email, just ask a question or request services. It gives you a prompt on there, and that website is liveloveorganizeny.com. Or you could go there. You could look at pictures, you could see before and afters, and you could read all about my services. Or you could just email me directly at liveloveorganizeny@gmail. Or you could call me on my cell phone, and the number is also on the website, but it's 516-971-5917.
Should be easy enough to remember. And you're based in Nassau County, if I remember, correct?
Correct.
So you're someone right near our neighborhood. So if someone needs you, you can get there for emergency work. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
Sounds good. Corey?
So how often do you get repeat calls? Like, is it once you set somebody up, they're good for life, or how often have you had to come back to someone's house?
Often.
Really?
It's so funny because you would think that, that's my whole thing. I want to set you up for function, maximize your space and give you a system. I want to teach you a system so that everything has a place, so that when you say, okay, I use this, put it back. But you'd be surprised that a lot of people, it lasts a little bit and then they want you back. Or it lasts a little bit, works great, and then they need you for another room. So I have a lot of reoccurring clients.
That's a good sign because they want you back.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're doing a good job. Now, Michele, I guess it's a sensitive in a way, but it also happens to all of us. A loved one passes away. And now either you have their part of the house, or it may be a grandmother who the grandfather passed away before, or vice versa. What are some tips you could tell people when they have that situation? What's the best way to handle it? A little good advice for all of us.
Oh, it's always a tough one. Just the sensitivity behind that is really tough. So I do it often. You have to go in and take baby steps, because don't just start getting rid of things and demanding them to get rid of things. You have to really get to know the client, sit with them. When there's a death, I always sit with them, discuss with them, okay, this is very difficult. I know there's a lot of things that have sentimental value and that you don't want to just get rid of. So why don't we start with that? Let's make a list. Let's start with the things that you definitely won't get rid of. We'll find a place for them, whether it's storage, whether we put them all in a bin and put them in the attic, whatever it is. Let's start with that. And then from there, we start purging other stuff, donating furniture, whatever it may be. But it's really a very sensitive issue, and you have to really tiptoe around it and take baby steps.
Yeah, and you're not just you're not just like the run-of-the-mill moving company. Oh, there's a couch, throw it in the truck. You're doing the emotional labor. It's very interesting.
It's really, really important. Very important.
And Michele, when you come into a place, whether it's an estate, for instance, as we've been talking about, or someone called you, and when we're talking kind of the average house in Nassau, Suffolk, what type of time frame are we looking at? Is this 3 hours, a week, a month?
It's again, so many people ask me that right away. It's very hard to say, because it depends on the space, it depends on the size, it depends on what their goal is there. Is it just a closet? A closet, depending on the size, I could do in an hour, in like 2-3 hours. But a kitchen, a garage, like, it depends on the amount of stuff in there. Everyone is so different. So usually that's why I like to do a consult, and I don't charge for that, because I'm very visual. I want to meet the client face to face. I want to see the space, and then I go home and think about that, and then I'll call them and let them know, this is what I'm thinking. It could be this many hours, give or take. But so many people are flexible, and honestly, it starts off, I could say 3 hours, and then they're like, all right, then do this one too, and do this.
Michele, before we wrap up, give us that website, because we definitely need you.
Oh, thank you. LiveLoveOrganizeNY.com.
This has been one of the most fun interviews, and I think one of the most helpful to everybody, and I'm saying me especially, because I am that messy person. I'm your number one target. I would like our audience to know that today we've been talking to Michele Goldsmith. She is a professional organizer and the creator of Live, Love, Organize. She's done amazing work, and Michele, again, we ask you to please continue to allow WHPC to support you in all your work.
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you, Michele. I'm Bill Horan. I'm here with Corey Kaufman. We thank you for listening to this week's edition of My Hometown.
We like to get your feedback on My Hometown. Send your comments to WHPC@ncc.edu. Nassau Community College, where success starts and continues. Till next time, this is Bill St. James. And remember, there's no town like your hometown.